Another lockdown, I remember, happened at my middle school. It was October, and the weather matched the mood. It was overcast, rainy, and just generally dreary. The kind of day that feels like it's dragging on forever, where the clouds seem too heavy and everything feels a little too still. It wasn't the kind of day anyone would expect anything out of the ordinary to happen. But then, things went from normal to terrifying in a matter of seconds. The air felt thick, almost as if the storm outside was somehow trying to warn us of something far worse. I remember the oppressive silence hanging in the school, and how the grey sky made everything feel heavier. I couldn't have known then, but that day would stay with me forever. A day where I learned how quickly safety could turn into chaos. I was sitting in the first lunch period, eating with some friends, when we heard for loud booms. At first, I thought it was just thunder. It was a stormy day, and thunder was expected. But those four sounds, they were too distinct, too sharp. The noise echoed through the cafeteria, and before I even processed what had happened, the entire lunchroom erupted in chaos. Kids screamed, food trays dropped to the floor, and everyone scrambled to figure out what was going on. It was like a switch flipped in an instant. People were shoving each other, panicking, looking for an exit, trying to figure out if there was some kind of explosion or something worse. The fear was contagious, and you could feel it spreading. It was the kind of situation where nobody knew what to do, and everyone was trying to flee, yet there was nowhere to run. The loudspeaker crackled on, and campus security rushed into the room, ordering us to get to the multi-purpose room quickly. The urgency in their voices only made the fear that much more real. There was no time to think, no time to ask questions. We were all herded out of the cafeteria in a flurry of confusion, our footsteps loud against the tile floors as we were pushed forward by the security guards. Everyone was on edge. The whole school seemed to be in a state of shock. Kids were darting into hallways, looking for direction, but no one seemed to know where to go. Some were whispering anxiously, others were texting their parents, their hands shaking with fear. The uncertainty made everything worse. I felt the panic rising in my chest, but we were being swept along with everyone else. It felt like the world around us was spinning out of control, and the further we got from the cafeteria, the heavier the air seemed to become. Once inside the multi-purpose room, the chaos didn't stop. The room was huge, but it quickly became overcrowded with what felt like every student in the school. There was no space, no order. Everyone was whispering, trying to figure out what was happening. Some kids were crying, some were laughing nervously, others just stared at the walls, too stunned to speak. We had no idea what was going on. Our eyes darted to the back of the room, where a large wall of glass windows let us see outside. That's when we saw something that confirmed this wasn't just a normal lockdown. The campus security had started pulling curtains over the windows. At first, I didn't understand why. It wasn't like we were trying to hide something. We were just students stuck in a room. But as the curtains covered the glass, a feeling of dread washed over me. Why were they hiding the outside world from us? What weren't they telling us? That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. I could feel the fear building up inside of me. The unknown danger outside, now hidden from our view, seemed to close in on us. It was like we were in a sealed room, waiting for a storm to break. One of my friends, Eric, who had always been the curious one, couldn't stand the suspense. He asked one of the adults in the room what was going on. When he came back, his face was pale, and his voice shook as he spoke. "There's a mentally disabled man barricaded in his house right in front of the school," he said. "He's threatening to commit suicide and kill the cops if they try to evict him." At first, I didn't know how to process what he said. It sounded so insane, so far out of the realm of what you would expect to happen in your school. But then, Eric added something that made everything much worse. Apparently, he's been watching kids on the campus in a weird way. And, on top of that, he's a registered sex offender. The weight of those words hit me like a ton of bricks. The fear that had been simmering in the background suddenly exploded. We were stuck in a room with no way to leave, and this man, who had been lurking right outside, was unstable, armed, and apparently watching us. It was surreal. I kept imagining him watching from a window, eyes wide, studying us like prey. His every move seemed deliberate, calculating, and now he was out there, ready to make good on his threats. We ended up staying in the multi-purpose room for over an hour, trapped there as the situation unfolded. Nobody knew exactly what was going on outside, but there were rumors and whispers circulating. Some said the police were there, others said the man had a gun, and a few kids were even making jokes to try and lighten the mood, though no one was really laughing. All I could think about was how close we were to the danger, how close we had been to walking outside and possibly running into this man. I kept imagining what could happen if he actually made it onto the campus. Would we be caught in the crossfire? Would we have to run for our lives? The fear made the air feel thick and suffocating. With every passing minute, the thought of that man standing right outside the doors became more and more terrifying. Would he get in? Would he make it through the police barricades? When the lockdown was finally lifted, we were escorted to our classrooms, one by one. The hallways, which had once seemed so familiar and safe, now felt eerily quiet. It was like a wave of relief had come over everyone, but it was still mixed with a deep sense of confusion. What had just happened? Was it really over? Had the man been caught? The whispers started again as we walked in silence down the hallway. Some kids were crying, others were still in shock, while others tried to act like nothing had happened, as if life was just going back to normal. But nothing was normal. How could it be after what we had just experienced? The halls that I had walked through every day for the past year now felt cold and strange, like I was walking through a completely different school. I couldn't stop looking over my shoulder, half expecting someone to jump out and yell that the lockdown wasn't over. Later, I found out that the man lived right next to my friend Brandy's house. She told me that she had seen him the previous Halloween doing something disturbing. Brandy had looked over at his house and saw him standing at the window, cutting his arm. And as crazy as it sounds, he was writing in his own blood on the window, "Don't come here or I'll kill you." At the time, we thought it was just some sick Halloween prank. We laughed about it. Even it seemed like something out of a bad horror movie, like a trick to spook the kids. But after the lockdown, after everything that had happened, we realized just how dangerous he really was. He wasn't playing games. The way he acted on Halloween, how he watched us from a distance, and the terrifying threats, it all started to make sense. He had been telling us exactly who he was. That Halloween, we thought it was just a joke, but now we knew it was real. And this man, who had been watching us all along, was not a joke. He was a warning that sometimes the danger we don't see is the one closest to us. That man wasn't just someone to be afraid of. He was a warning that sometimes the dangers we face aren't always obvious. They can come from places we don't expect, right in front of us, hidden behind normalcy, until it's too late to see them for what they really are. It wasn't just about the lockdown or the chaos. It was the realization that there are people out there who have the potential to turn our world upside down in an instant. And sometimes we don't see the danger until it's too close to ignore. After that day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I kept wondering how many other people were walking around us, unnoticed, hiding their own dangers. How many red flags we missed, how many signs we didn't see until it was too late. And I'll never forget the lockdown, the panic, and the feeling that we were all just one step away from something far worse. Every time I look back, I can't shake the feeling that we were far too lucky that day. What if we hadn't been so fortunate? What if we hadn't been kept in the multi-purpose room?